Welcome to the Spiritable podcast. This week we were joined by Hava Rose, and we had a lot of great conversation about identity and community.
Yeah, I'm Hava Rose. I'm a mobile chiropractor in Philadelphia. I also host guided writing workshops to help people get reinvigorated and in touch with themselves amongst the community.
Yeah, and Hava was kind enough to share her path from being raised in a Judaic household to figuring out who she is and how she expresses herself and what her beliefs are. So if any of that interests you, feel free to keep on listening or keep on watching.
Check it out.
That was
I'll give it 30.
That was really
Great job, guys.
All right,
We pulled it together.
Nice!
Welcome to the Spiritable podcast. I'm Ben.
And I'm Luke. Basically, we started this podcast as a place to bring spirituality down to earth. For a whole myriad of reasons, talking about your faith, belief, religion, it's kind of a minefield, but we don't always think that's the best barrier to keep up. So personally, we're coming at this from a perspective of Christianity with a little bit of a twist, and you can check out episode 9 for more on that.
What we'd like to do is bring on guests with a whole variety of different spiritual backgrounds to help challenge our own beliefs and hopefully to learn something together about how to be useful people. So thanks for joining us on Spiritable.
All right, well, let's get into it here.
Yeah.
So, Hava, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, I'd love to hear kind of maybe how you grew up and your spiritual ideas and where you are now and what brings you to this seat.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. So I grew up actually in Philadelphia. I'm
Nice.
a Philly native. I grew up in a Jewish home. And in Judaism, there's a whole culture with it. And I know some religions are the same, but specifically Judaism is a really big culture with it.
Yeah.
So as I grew up at a younger age, probably like less than 10, it was really just about the culture, like the holiday dinners and the certain things you eat at the holidays and family gatherings. But as a youth, I've always had, like, at that point, not knowing a spirituality, I always felt connected in a weird way where it was like this, I know that someone's watching over me. I felt very protected at a young age. I remember when one of my grandparents passed when I was about 6 or 7, and so I was connected, but not really. They lived in Florida. I was in Philly, so I didn't have a strong relationship. But I remember when they died and the explanation of death, and like just being like, oh, it's okay because someone's watching over me, and like just having that. I had the death thing that brought it to perspective, but I've had this like protected feeling for my whole life.
That's great.
And I always felt that my siblings and anyone like that I was very close related to or close to in relationship was also protected by default.
So just that sense of security.
Yeah,
That's
and
hard
like
to feel fine.
fast forward
Sounds
later
amazing.
in life, I had like some like traumas in my family, and I would like not worried about the people involved because I was like they're gonna be all right.
That's cool.
Because someone's watching over me.
Yeah.
Fast forward, my parents moved to the suburbs. They didn't want us going to City High School. And when they moved to the suburbs, it just so happened they bought a house that was within blocks of the synagogue we grew up going to. And there was a shift in the religion for us. It wasn't any longer just this cultural thing. It was very a way of life thing.
Was it more orthodox?
They went from like it was a conservative synagogue always. The same synagogue we went to when we lived in Philly, but they moved closer, and this allowed my parents to be involved more. I think.
Right.
So no longer were we allowed to watch TV on the Sabbath. The Sabbath is on Saturday. We weren't allowed to turn on and off lights that much. We didn't drive anywhere on the Sabbath. We weren't allowed to do anything with money on the Sabbath. We were now a kosher home, which we had 2 sets of dishes. You couldn't eat from one dish if it was a dairy meal. It was a complete, and it wasn't how we were raised at a young age. So
That's been surprising for you.
It was very shocking. I was already in shock just from the move, being a kid, like taken from their home. I was like very traumatized from it. Like,
I moved to like probably 10 or 12 different homes.
Yeah. And so it was very alarming and shocking in that sense. And then this whole shift came of the context of how I knew my religion and my identity. I was a gymnast from age of 3 up until 13. And so the shift of religion happened in the midst of me being a competitive gymnast. And we had 4-hour practices on Saturdays, and we had 3-hour practices Friday nights, and we had meets on Saturdays. And my parents never stopped me.
Okay, I was wondering. Yeah.
But they wouldn't take me. I had to find rides to practice. Right. So it was a big stab in my heart for me.
Probably hard to understand. I don't want to like put words in your mouth.
You understand what's happening, but you're like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why I can't eat an Italian sub anymore? What's wrong with that? Like,
you live in Philly.
Yeah.
So,
and that shifted a lot of my tie to the religion and my feeling toward the religion. It was all forced. It was not like a choice, and I was very aware of that. And like having to go to Hebrew school after your bar and bat mitzvah, and like, why am I still going to this school every twice a week and a night? Fast forward, I had a damaged relationship with my parents. I think for in my teenage years, I didn't agree. I felt like very, very much forced into everything I had to do. I felt I had no privacy. And so after high school years, I mean, once I was living on my own in college, like it was very easy for me to like do what I wanted, eat what I wanted, have no association with religion at all. Like, and I was embarrassed of the religion. So when people hear my name, Hava, a lot of people thought I was Spanish growing up. So a lot of people assumed it was a Spanish descent name, or that it was spelled with a J. And I used to ride that wave, and it was like, and I did not want to like admit that I was Jewish because I had such a negative experience with the religion, and I understood that there were different levels of it because we were once a different level, but I only had this one imprint in my memory box of like what the religion is. But so personally, I was very much a kid that when I was home, my doors were shut. And my mom used to question, "I had a drug problem, what's wrong?" Because I would just come home and shut my doors. I didn't want anyone in my room. I wanted to be alone. But I would write. I would keep journals. I remember my best friend, one of my best girlfriends in cheerleading, gave me a journal for my birthday, 15. She was like, she was a year older. She was like, "This really helped me I know you're going through some stuff." And I took to that journal, and I'd be up until 3, 4 in the morning writing.
Wow.
Feelings.
Just like stream of consciousness.
Just like whatever. It's just like a way for me to like connect to myself or to like be like, no one understands what the hell I'm thinking. And I don't feel safe to talk to these people because there's so many things that I'm supposed to be that I'm not.
Yeah. That's really tough. Yeah.
So I had this, and that was like my little like, that was my thing. Like I couldn't wait to go home and write. Like I was like, it was like my like sneaky little guilty pleasure. Yeah. It was like this is when I feel like the most like sane. Is when I would write. So I've been writing my whole life since then. Let's fast forward. So I keep going through school. I feel the pressure is also a middle class Jewish family. I have to continue school. Whatever I do, I have to keep going to school. I have to get the furthest degree I can, whether it's a lawyer or a doctor.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm going to keep going to school. And as I keep going through school, it's like more of a science route I'm taking. I hated the sciences. I liked anatomy. I liked human body. I liked that stuff, but I really didn't like science. I really enjoyed sociology, so I minored in that. But I feel I think now this is like stream of consciousness right now. As I was going through school and continuing this path for other people, it also started disconnecting me more and more from that essence of a child, where I felt like this protection, like that feeling. I still feel it, but I think there was a period of time where I like forgot that feeling existed of like some other world, is how I would describe it as a little kid. So like I started to like ice myself out more and more as I was like doing these things that I didn't really enjoy. I was just doing science route, and then like trying to figure out what I'm doing after undergrad because I gotta keep going to school. Like,
it's so
I'm safe there
because like it sounds like you were playing into this external format that your whole life you had been pushing against. So it's interesting that like even at that point it still had some sort of hold over you that you were like, yeah, this is what I need to do. Even though my whole life I haven't been wanting to like
I
fit into
felt a lot
this.
of weight in my youth. And now I still feel it, being the oldest of my immediate family.
You just have to be successful.
I have to like be the one that can do it for everyone. I cannot disappoint my parents, even though I have, and even though I'm an ass to them. Like less now, more of that.
You seem very pleasant, Zana.
Yeah, there's just like misunderstandings, but like even though I was like a rebellious snappy little like fresh teenager because I felt misunderstood. I didn't want to dare understand what the hell they were going through, and so I was like not a pleasant teenager. I'm very aware of it, but I still was like conforming. But I had to make sure I was like sassy about it. Yeah, I still did. I felt the pressure to like I had to be worth it. I had to like show my worth, and that was like the only way I felt they will understand my value was to do what they were expecting of me.
A lot of push and pull going on.
Oh, it wasn't pleasant in a couple of years of my teenage life. So journaling was my only outlet, and I mean I had a lot of good social bonds and all that, and I continued school, and I ended up going to chiropractic school. I became a chiropractor. And in the midst of all this, I come out of school and I'm kind of like, I don't know, this is what I think I'm supposed to do. Like, I want the office. And I grew up under chiropractic care. Mom's best friend, she's a chiropractor. And she was like an idol to me. And I was like, I want her life. Like, that's the life I want. So I'm going to do everything I can to do that. So I wanted to, like, have office. I was going to maybe take her office over. And in the practice of it, once I'm out in the world, 25 years later, I've been in school for 25 years of my life, essentially.
Wow.
I'm trying things out, and I'm like, this does not feel right. Like, this is not like, this is like, what am I doing?
How long have you been practicing as a chiropractor?
So I've been practicing, it's 2019?
Yeah.
It'll be 8 years in March.
Okay.
Wow.
I've been out of school, practicing of some sort.
Yeah.
So
Do you still feel like that?
So, funny you should ask. So I've changed my mode of practice. I used to be office life. Like I had worked in multiple offices. I now do mobile house calls. So naturally, I'm not in one place that's sterile and officey for 8 hours in a day. I'm mobile, so I can change my environment. It also makes me more exclusive. People can't Google my office.
Yeah.
You have to know me or know someone that knows me. Or like know me on Instagram.
It's a lot more personal.
So it becomes like a very natural alignment. Funny word. No, but it comes like a natural.
That caught me by surprise.
I was like, wait, I'm saying it, I can't stop it. It's coming out. But it's a natural alignment with my patients and like the personality and the people I'm like. It's we are very similar, like-minded folks. And it's allowed me the freedom to also have time to do other things that have helped me so much and helped facilitate it for other people, which in this case is writing and food. I have a food thing, like, so it's like a food, writing. It's called Creative Collective.
Yeah.
But it's a guided writing workshops. Get your adjustment after. Yeah. So, but all this stuff happened like much later in my life. This understanding that, wait, I feel it again, the spirituality. I can like feel it. I feel it. And then like, how do I facilitate a way to create space for other people or create space for myself even where I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel like worth and value again. I feel like there's no context of like religion, this or that, or like being told what it is or who should come or what level of observance they have to have. It was like, but it took many, I would say 2 to 3 years after chiropractic school, and I was like, had a nasty breakup. I left the office because I was working with that person. I moved back home again as an adult. It was like, and I was like, what is going on? Who am I? It just created that whole journey of like getting in touch with who I was again, because I lost myself in schooling and in relationships and like trying to prove myself to my parents. And so moving back home at 26, 27, after being away and being with a doctorate degree, supposed to be making something, and with way too much debt that anyone should be carrying, it was like, oh, I'm back home, and I'm jobless, and I'm carless,
and I'm in debt,
and I'm just in debt, and I hate what I have a degree in. So it was this whole like, I had to figure out like who I was and get back in touch with that person.
So what was that like for you? How did that come about?
It was hard. It was really hard to like, even I dumbed it down. I had to dumb it down. I knew I had to just like all right, every day try to find something. It was funny because it was like an Instagram challenge or something at that time. I'm sure it's still going on. It was 100 Days of Happiness. Mm-hmm. And it was like you had to take a picture every day of something that makes you happy and post like, and you did it for 100 days.
That's cool.
I did that thing 4 times through. Not back to back, but in a year's
400
span.
400 days of happiness.
400 days. In a 2-year span, I had done it 4 times.
Wow.
And so it was like, I had to dumb things down for myself, though. Like, all right, I need to find something today that makes me happy aside from any of my other surroundings. Only me. Not my parents, not my ex-boyfriend, not my best friend. Like, what is something that literally made me smile today? Or brought, like, a flutter to my heart? So, like, that was where I started. Literally where I started. I was like, I went through the week of, like, just like,
what am I doing?
What am I doing? Back in my bedroom that I grew up in, writing.
Wow.
Like
literally back to your roots.
Literally.
Yeah, wow.
Like
writing.
12, 15 years prior, probably.
This time with dark chocolate bars next to me. Because at that point I was an adult and I'm bringing food in my room if I want.
I will eat in bed, thank you.
I will, with my notebook.
And it's dark chocolate because you're a foodie. Right?
You knew. Food is art.
Food is art.
Sorry. But,
yeah, that's fascinating.
So I was back there 27, I think I was 27 years old, writing. And I was like, I gotta figure stuff out. I gotta make money. I'm literally pouring out of school, and I'm not doing anything with lots of debt. I gotta just figure that out. I gotta get a car. I gotta get an apartment. I gotta, like, get my life together.
It's paralyzing.
It was very paralyzing. So I was home for about 6 months. So I did that. I sought a therapist, and she helped me tremendously.
Great.
She was amazing. And, and slowly but surely, like, I got to be in touch with myself. I started practicing a little mindfulness. Like, I read The Power of Now. It was the first book that really, like, oh, this is how I let go of these emotions. Or not attach to them and, like, not sit in this. And, like, and so there's a lot of book reading, like, in that world, like The Power of Now and The Untethered Soul. And a lot of that. And that was a lot of my turning back on that switch of the essence of a child. Of, like, oh, here is that intuition, that universal guidance of, like, oh, like, everything is gonna be all right. And, like, I just gotta, like, feed myself this stuff right now.
Do you think you were starting to feel that protection again? Or was it
I
something
did.
different?
Oh, no. It was that same... And I never, like, lost the sense of protection, which is why I probably rebelled and did things I shouldn't have done in high school years. Because I was like,
I'm good to go.
I'll be all right.
No problem.
Yeah.
But, or maybe that was, like, an arrogance of a teenager, but... Yeah. But it was actually in tune. Like, I was in tune with it. It wasn't just this, like, thing that I had no awareness of at that point, because I lost the awareness of it. I was, like, back in tune with it, which was huge for me. And I think that is, like, what helped propel me into all the understandings that, like, oh, I can be reborn at any moment. Like, I can literally start over again
Whenever
as long as I'm, like, making sure that, like, I am in awareness of my surroundings and myself.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So in that, like, 6-month period, were you ever tempted to just be like, maybe my parents had it figured. Maybe I should just, like, convert to this image of what they've wanted me to be all along. Was there a temptation there at all?
I mean, it's an underhanded one. I don't like the religion part was not. The chiropractic thing was but it was also because I was indebted to it.
Right.
It was like not even them anymore.
Like,
it was like I literally owe so much
Yeah.
money. Like, and I went to school for so many years, and it wasn't them anymore. It was everyone around me. She's a doctor. Make sure you write doctor. Just call me Hava, please. It was like all my friends I went to high school with. It was like
like Reverend over here.
It was
But I mean, like, associating with that title.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking, earlier, it's like, I was sort of picturing forward, like, after graduating, after getting ordained, it's like, I'm sure people, it's sort of like when you get married, people are like, oh, how's married life?
Oh, it's
and you're
definitely
like,
going to be
I don't have an answer for that. Like, I don't know. And
Good, I
imagine,
guess.
like, oh, hey, doctor, like, give me some wisdom now. And
and it was like,
you're
you're gonna fix my neck now. And it's like, but I don't know your circumstance, but I mean, I'm presuming this is like a very solid choice of yours. The road you took, right? So for me, it wasn't necessarily like a road I chose, although I chose it. Yeah. It was like a pressure. So it was also this, like, it wasn't something I fully wanted.
Was there darkness there for you?
Oh yeah.
That's really tough.
It was like, I was like, oh, I'm like, and then I would get offended though when I would like be in, like, I just remember, it's so petty, but it was like, all right, now I have the title, I gotta use it. Especially now I need to pay this debt back. I gotta use it. And then I was like, you know what? I can use it to my advantage, like, to my advantage, to like things I want to do. Like, I can present that. Like, I went to school for this. Like, I'm a chiropractor. I'm a doctor. I can use it to my advantage in things I want, right? So
yeah. Well, it sounds like your whole life path, at least as you're presenting it to me, like it seems like an overwhelming kind of theme is taking control of what life has given you. Like, life has set up so many structures and ways that you should play into it, but it seems like you've always taken it and done what you wanted with it. Yeah. So even though life gave you this very like structured orthodox or conservative household, you wanted to form your own identity within yourself. Absolutely. To be able to fit in this mold. And so even though life gave you going to school to be a chiropractor, you figured out how to take control and use it for yourself to make it your own.
Once I was able to like get back in touch with myself in that 6-month period, I was like, wait, life doesn't have to be what I've been taught. And that's what, and then once I realized and got back in tune and like got that like essence again, I was able to start like thinking again and creating and like creating opportunities for myself.
Is that when like a sense of spirituality started to come back?
A lot more. Yeah. So I will say like the getting back in touch with myself, like the essence of me, and then feeling the sense of like creativity again and being like, wait, it doesn't just have to stop here. Like, I can expand the thought of like what a chiropractor is. I can expand these other dreams I have. I can do those too. Like, I don't have to like only do the one thing I'm told because that's the house I was raised in, or like that's how my generation before was raised, you know? Like, and once I had that like, I mean, it's scary to create something that's not the norm.
It's vulnerable.
Yeah. It's very vulnerable. But like once I was able to understand I can do that, I think that's where a lot of the spirituality came in. Yeah. And so it started with a food business. I did granola. Like, and I mean, there's a whole story. I'm not going to get into it. But like, I started my own granola company for a while. I was selling out of bulk bins at the local market,
nice.
Right on the side. And I always had a food passion. And I found a lot of healing and a lot of stillness and mindfulness when I was in the kitchen. And it was in that 6-month period when I moved back home. It was like if I wanted to leave the room because I was done journaling, like what else can I do to not let my mind go into a dark hole was being in the kitchen. Yeah. So that's where like the food stuff started, and I learned, and we did nutrition classes in chiropractic school. So I also like had this knowledge base that I really was fascinated with. And so fast forward, I started a plant-based food experience company with a friend, and like there's been all these other side things, and I realized more recently in the latest venture of these guided writing workshops with food that I'm doing, the richness and the wholeness of the full scale of nourishment and the self.
I was thinking that the whole time you were saying that. Yeah. So like different facets of
nourishing yourself.
And wellness.
Like a holistic.
Yeah, super holistic.
Yeah, it's been really cool, and it's fascinating to see. What happens when I have these events, but like just having space where people can gather and create community, but in this like soul nourishing way, it's unreal. Like it's been so mind blowing to me, and there's a lot of connectedness with like me finding myself again, finding that creative urge again, finding that essence again, and tapping back into spirituality. And fast forward like 4 or 5 years later. The trickle effect that happens with the people that are coming, whether it be for the chiropractic care or these workshops, like now that I'm sound and grounded in that like spiritually soundness, like for me, I feel like, I trust myself with these people now. Yeah. Where there was like a sense of like, I don't trust myself around these people doing something I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a story that comes to mind for myself is, I talked a little bit about like my parents were divorced growing up. I had my sister. So when I was 17, I moved to the town we live in now. Yeah. And I went to a boarding school, and like it was my choice to do that. I might have talked about this before as well. But again, I love my parents. I'm very grateful for the relationship that I have. And at the same time, it was hard bouncing back and forth between households, and it was hard for me to ever feel like I had time for myself. Because when I was with my mom, I wanted to be with my mom. And when I was with my dad, I wanted to be with my dad. Because all that time was kind of sacred. But it was hard for me to develop a social life and identity within that sort of structure. So when I moved to the dormitory and had my first weekend there, I remember I woke up on Saturday and I was like, wait a second, I can do whatever I want this weekend. I can hang out with my friends and not feel guilty about it. I can do all these different things. And it gave me the space to figure out who I was. And that sparked so many connections with people and creativity and identity. Yeah. And I think that stillness that you were talking about is really important.
It's crucial.
And taking that time to do that.
It's
crucial. Super crucial.
Especially in the world we live in, where it's just go, go, go,
Everything's
go,
busy. Yeah.
Magic bullets
I'm
everywhere.
bad at that because I'm a go personality.
I mean, it's easy to get sucked in it.
Yeah.
You can't help it. It's harder to be still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is actually the root of human beings. We are probably one of the most still creatures. If you look at cavemen, we literally sit around and do nothing. And then if we're hungry, we hunt or we gather. But we're pretty simple beings.
Yeah. It's true. Even our old hunting tactics were just wearing down our enemy until they collapsed.
Yeah, we're lazy.
Okay,
we're pretty lazy.
We're pretty lazy.
And then when we're done, we just sort of sit and think. Right? I mean, it's
It's funny because I went on a trip to Guatemala a couple of years ago. Some out of this finding myself, the whole travel surge started. I did all these trips alone, just experiencing life elsewhere and culture and understanding that there's so much more out there than we're subjected to or brought to our attention. You can make life whatever you want it, which is really cool, but scary, and also really hard to explain to the mass that we're surrounded by.
In the same way that it's hard to be a business entrepreneur, it's hard to be a spiritual or social entrepreneur in the same way.
Yeah.
It's really easy to grow up and keep your same religion or same thought that you were raised in, but it's a lot harder to question the structure that you were in and be able to form your own identity outside of it, even if it ends up adapting those same things. I think it's a really healthy practice to kind of rigorously question how you were raised, what you believe, in order to form your own kind of stuff. And
And the hard questions are fun. I mean, so I just want, if someone asks you, what do you believe?
So
do you have an elevator pitch?
An elevator pitch. Well, I'll tell you what I feel, what I believe is that we're all human beings, and that we should treat each other as human beings. We are reflections of one another, so you should just treat everyone as
golden rule to the fullest extent.
But I also think that the golden rule needs to be flipped, and you should never if you're treating others that way, you need to treat yourself that way. There's Tim Ferriss, actually, I will shout out now, but he had said it one day, switching the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated, but actually you should treat yourself as you treat others, because you usually treat others, well, not usually, but many people treat others better than themselves.
Yeah, that was one thing that changed, not really changed my mindset, but flipped a switch for me, was if I treated myself, if my friends treated me the same way I treat myself, would I be friends with me?
No. Most people wouldn't.
Because you talk way more negatively to yourself than you do to anyone else.
Yeah.
It's you gotta be good to yourself.
Your own voice in your head is always the most critical.
Right.
Always the most critical.
Always.
Everyone believes in you except yourself.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it's also because,
crazy.
but I think a lot of it has to do with the society we're raised in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And outside, inclusive of religion, I think there's a lot of pressure within the religion if you can't find it for yourself. And that's where I think, so later in life, much more recently, a year ago, I went to Israel as an adult. And I've been as a young kid.
Oh, cool.
And there I actually, for the first time, was proud to be Jewish.
That's really cool.
But it took
That's
me
sweet.
understanding, though, that because Judaism is a piece of my being Jewish is my DNA.
Yeah,
it's literally a part of my makeup. And for this entire extent of my life at this point, I have basically denied it. So I'm literally denying a piece of myself, which is horrendous. If I'm trying to create and move and be purposeful in this world and create change, I have to bring my whole self to it. Right. So in Israel, this trip around, being an adult and being a lot more in tune with myself and my essence, I was oh, Judaism can be whatever I want it to be because it's a part of me. And it doesn't have to be equated to the observance level that I, at this point in my life, hold on to. because I'm so traumatized by it. But it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
And inclusive of that, with the writing workshops and the community I'm bringing together, it had me further understand my parents and their need for the community. That was just the community they chose.
Right.
And they just wanted a community. And these are the people that they're having dinner with every week.
Yeah.
And, like, it's a beautiful thing. That's where they found their community.
Yeah, it's what they needed.
And then I was like, and I understand, I've always, like, seen religion as, like, the place for community gathering for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I also agree that, like, the religions across the board, for me, so my parents would reflect, well, just as long as you raise the grandbabies Jewish, nothing. And my response was always to my mom, as long as the kids are raised with morals, it doesn't matter the religion,
They'll be fine.
and they'll be around for the holidays. For me, the culture thing is more the exciting part.
Yeah.
But, like, it was always like, Mom, all of them, the 3 golden rules, it's every religion, like, it is. She'd be like, well, as long as the grandbaby's Jewish. I was like, they're going to be raised with morals. That's probably what you should care about the most. And that's what you probably want from the religion the most, even if you don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
So, like, so, like, there's still, like, it's just a different generation and a different reason.
So,
but I'm really, like, in a different place with the religion now for myself.
It sounds like you're in
and a better understanding of, like, oh, my parents were just seeking community.
Yeah.
And they, in their childhood, probably felt like they missed out on the religion, not being raised in whatever religious capacity, observance level. They wanted to try to be kosher. They didn't understand. They probably wanted that as a child.
So it sounds like they returned to their roots and found a path that worked for them.
Yeah, it was
just how you tried to return to
Yeah.
your roots and found something that worked for you.
So, like, I think it's great. Those are my parents' homies. Like, they're empty nesters now. So, like, they have
They're doing that thing.
they have the synagogue and, like, those couples that they hang out with.
So
And
what
it's
would
still
you
the same synagogue that's been going
Same
to.
synagogue.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just cool.
Well, it sounds like all the community that you've tapped into and tried to create and what you've wanted to develop as you're figuring all these things out is going back to that creativity that was really essential for you growing up. So is there, to you, a kind of an interchange between creativity and spirituality? Like, it sounds like the more you've gained creativity and tapped into that, the more...
Well,
like,
I've always felt
stuff.
like, as I was able to tap back into it, that human beings are creative, like, by nature. We are creative. And I think in my upbringing, I felt like a lot of restriction, and I felt like a lot of it was pulled from me. And I think it aligns with when I didn't feel, like, spiritual or connected.
Yeah.
And I think if people are able to allow themselves to believe in creating and, like, trying and being vulnerable, that it's much easier to tap back. I don't think it's necessarily, like, a one-off, but I think if you're able to tap into the creative being that you are, because as humans we are, that you have a lot easier time of getting in touch with your spirituality.
Yeah.
Sort of therapy.
But I don't think it's necessarily.
No, but it just sounds like creativity and spirituality is definitely a thing for me, and so I was just curious if that was at all for you.
Well, it's just like you're opening yourself.
Yeah.
And I think you have to open yourself to be spiritual.
Yeah. And even in the word creativity is create, and people talk about their creator, and so there's kind of already a link there.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I don't know much about, Ben, your, like, creativity. Is there any way?
I mean, it's funny. Yeah, I don't resonate with the word creativity almost at all. I don't know. I never have. As a kid, I was always, like, the not creative one. My older brother was playing with Legos, and I was like, I hate this. I can't make it work. I was never, I never had the brain to, like, be an architect. I'd be a terrible interior designer. Like, if I look at a room, I have no idea where furniture should go.
But that's the thing about creation, right? Is, like, there aren't rules. But it sounds like you already had these expectations.
Yeah.
And maybe because you compared to siblings and all that, but, like, you saw what they were doing. But, like, that's the thing about creation. It can be whatever. Like, you could have done anything with the Legos, and it's a creation.
Yeah.
Which is the really cool thing. And just, like, being, like... But I think the thing that misses for a lot of people is the vulnerability with themselves. Not even with other people. It's, like... And that's what I discovered in the writing workshops is, like, many people... Alone is the scariest time for many people.
Yeah.
And journaling, now I think because it's, like, part of my purpose is why I was able to do it for so many years. But when it comes to journaling, many people won't open up to themselves. And journaling is usually something people do alone in their room.
Right.
Yeah.
And in this space I've created with a community, people all see that everyone around them is doing it, so they do it. And they dive in, and then they come out and they read and they're like, So, and I think that's the moment they realize, like, oh.
It's like ideas they never thought they
Ideas,
had.
connections, realizations, understandings. But, like, I think it's because the creativity and the people that claim they're not creative.
Right.
Which is not true, because we're literally, human beings are creators.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yep.
But I think a lot of it has to do with, like, people not being able to be vulnerable with themselves. And that's the scariest time, is that alone time. And once I think sometimes layers unfold, then you, like, lose the judgment and the expectations and, like, the fear of, like, what could be. And then you just, like, go. You're like, oh.
Do you think you find that it's easier for people to be more vulnerable in journaling with a group?
Absolutely.
Really? Because for me, like, just hearing about that, I feel like I'd be less inclined to, write my deepest, darkest fears.
I mean,
I think I'm on the other side. I think I'm on her side.
Yeah?
Because I don't want to sit there.
You guys should come.
Yeah, we should. I don't think. Yeah, what she said really resonated. I don't want to be alone ever. Like I can't even play a video game if it's like single player, because I'm like, well, there's no people. And I think Richard and I are very similar in that way. It's like I need a person there. If I don't have connection, so maybe that's part of my creativity. Is I like messing around with ideas and bouncing things off.
Debating, yeah, of course.
I was going to ask how it related to, like your job or what you're trained to be as a minister.
Yeah.
And so like the creative process there is often more intellect based. It's a lot of writing or like preparing like a sermon to deliver to people.
Yeah, there's definitely
like,
creative
what do you see in
ideas.
that?
I don't enjoy writing. I think I'm okay at it. I don't think I've ever been a bad writer, but I don't enjoy it, and I never have.
That's okay.
But I do enjoy being with people, and I enjoy hearing what they believe. That's probably my favorite thing in life, is just what do people believe and why. Yeah. And just understanding the why is a huge part of, I think, for me, that's really my creativity is. It's like, let's just sit down and talk about this for like 5 hours. Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Just being with someone.
This podcast is now 5 hours long.
Yeah. buckle in, yeah.
Get all the coffee.
Yeah, pause now.
That's a beautiful thing. I mean, it is creation. Connection is creation. Like, you have to create the connection, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think we have sort of maybe an overly structured idea of what creativity is.
Well,
it's not sitting down and being told to create and make something physically. It can be
and that's
so
been my
things.
battle my whole life. Yeah. It's like the structures that the society we live in.
Yeah, what does art mean to you? I grew up
you know what I mean?
Very artistic people, and I'm like, well, I'm not that. Yeah. So clearly I'm not creative.
I can't draw something artistic.
Yeah,
I can't build Legos, so I'm not creative.
Well, I don't draw trees and portraits. I'm still creative though.
Yeah. You draw in your mind. You draw with words.
Well, whatever it is, you're creative.
Yeah.
You are you are someone that connects and has conversations.
Right.
That's creation.
Yeah.
You're creating space, time, energy with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And creating relationships. That's all.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that we don't normally think of that as a creative thing. That doesn't fall into our like the societal picture of what creativity means. So it's neat to break out of that.
Complete opposite.
Yeah.
Is like structure creative, right?
Yeah, right.
We're still trying to structure it. It shouldn't be
because that's what
why is it listening art, right?
As human beings are so inclined to create structure because that's how we understand things. We put things in boxes so we understand it. But then we take so much time to also break down those boxes because we realize that isn't often the best way to categorize something. So it's like a weird mix of like, this is how we are so ready to create and categorize to understand, but sometimes to fully embrace a bigger picture, we need to break those things down.
Right. You need to uncover and see what's inside
Humans,
the box.
we're complicated little beings. We're lazy, slow, complicated beings.
Yeah, we're simple. We're simple, complicated, right?
Simple and overly complicated. We're a conundrum, for sure. So
you could write.
Yeah, you can write.
You can come to the writing.
I want to do free writing. I try to journal I think like 6 points in my life I've tried to journal and just like keep a daily thing going, and I just never keep up with it. I would like to.
Yeah. Have you stopped doing that?
What?
I always thought that was like a cool thing that you did in the background. You told me that you like kept just a little log.
Oh no, I do that. Yeah, well, I have a calendar.
All the things I do.
I have a calendar that every day I'll just like write down the bullet points of what I did.
Yeah.
Mostly because I have a terrible memory.
You just want to remember your
like,
days.
I want to be able to tell someone what I did on April 14th.
It's not a bad idea.
So I can go back and do that. But I'm bad at like keeping an in-depth journal of like my feelings and my thoughts and reflections.
Right. And journaling can be whatever it is. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be what you think it should be.
That's true.
Because it's
That's true.
structured.
So yeah.
So that's like some of the idea of the workshop also, is to understand that like it can be many different variations.
So yeah, tell me more about the workshop. Where do you host it? Like how many people come? What's the deal?
It's generally my home. And it's ranged from 5 people to 35 people.
Cool.
Yeah, I've done some corporate, but yeah, it's just a help. I'm a guide. I'm not like really doing. And I present a meal, which is always nice. We break bread together, so it's like a full soul nourishing experience. But it's a lot of just there's topic bases and then different style of journaling, and it's kind of like this like. Now read to yourself what you wrote after you dumped it on the page. And feel free to share. So it's also it's also reading back, which a lot of people don't do in journaling, I've learned. Many people write and close and maybe never look at it again. So it's a reading back of what comes out of you. It's a then opportunity to share what comes out of you aloud. So now it's talking it. And then that creates conversation, discussion, and perspective. And it's like a very safe space to do it. And everyone's there genuinely, whether they know it or not. They know by the end. Whether they know it or not, everyone's there genuinely to understand themselves more.
Yeah.
Which then you can connect better to other humans.
Yeah. That's a great tool to do that too.
How often do you do it?
Once a month. Okay. But I added like a community style class without a meal that's a lesser. Just so like everyone has access to it, because I've just seen the value in it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So how do you see that like going forward? Because you just so much like change and evolution in your life.
Yeah.
Like are you in like the place you want to be? Is this like
No.
yes?
I want this to reach many more people.
Yeah.
I see the value in it. And I also understand that we're in an era of disassociation. Where there's everything's so digital and people are losing the human connection.
So there's a loneliness epidemic.
But the connection and community is essential for our survival.
Yeah.
So I foresee it in crowds, and instead of someone talking at you, it being like a keynote speaker. Like I see it big, like interactive in a big space where everyone's there to see someone and not looking to the other person next to them in the crowd, and just. It being there as a tool for them to get to themselves, and by the end of it, like they're having conversations with the people that they probably would came to a conference maybe and would have never spoken to. Then they just came just for their own.
That's beautiful. Yeah, well, I mean, we've talked a ton about identity, and so I don't know. You do so many things. You've done so much. Can you like? Could you like give a word to your identity at this point? Because so much of your life, like if you had to define your identity. And I mean, I could ask myself the same question, probably not come up with a good answer, so I don't mean to set you up or something. But
certainly, I mean, I have written up like a short bio, but like,
yeah,
I'm definitely like a curious being.
That's cool.
Who wants to better the world around her. And for me, the better world is in the human beings. Not necessarily climate, you know.
Yeah.
Like we are the essence.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the simple version.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, I think
maybe I should have wrote that.
There, we'll keep that.
Can you jot that down?
Logged
Jot
now.
that down. Log it.
It's logged now. We'll have that as a clip. We'll send it to you.
Thank goodness.
For years to have.
I can't keep up with myself.
Have you thought of writing a book?
Funny you should ask. Yeah, no, I'm actually in the process of trying to self-publish. We're getting that started, but it's I went through and read all my journal entries from 14 within the last year, and I was mind blown.
How many pages was that?
It was a lot. I have a lot of journals. I kept all of them. But yeah, so I was started to see kind of themes in the writing, and I was like, oh, I could do a collection, a day in the mind of Hava kind of book. So I have it I'm working on that. So I'll definitely let you guys know.
That's probably a cool identity process in and of itself. Yeah. Going back through those things, seeing where you came
from,
where you're going. Yeah.
It was interesting to see repeated patterns in my life and thoughts. And then I was kind of mind blown. I was like, wait, I wrote this in 10th grade? Whoa. Well, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah.
Well, no, that slides into an excellent place to give plugs as we're winding down here. I don't know if we have any final thoughts about like identity or creativity, these big themes that we hit on, but they were interesting thoughts to explore.
Well, I saw.
Yes.
So with your book, it's all already written.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, are you trying to craft it into a message? Would you say there's a message you're looking for?
So it's more about being heard at this point and being like, wow, I've had this in me. Well, I've had this on paper privately for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I think these are words that a lot, and I'm learning this more and more in the workshops, like, there's so many people out there that can identify with this stuff. And, like, why short anyone of opportunity to connect and identify and feel like they belong or they're included?
Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah. So, and then the category, I'll share, the categories are, like, and it's just, like, frame of reference for, like, kind of, like, the ideas. I mean, they're also a little bit more, like, figurative. It's not complete, but it's disconnections, daydreams, and delusions. So it's a lot of these like lingering thoughts that I have day to day that I know a lot of people have thoughts day to day that they're like they feel very alone in.
Yeah.
And you never know with what you do who you're going to affect.
Exactly. You don't know who you touch.
A lot of the same mentality behind this podcast. Like even if we had one person listen to an episode and really get something out of it or help them change their life for the better or like think about themselves, like that's worth it.
Yeah.
Like that's so cool. And even if we don't hear about it, like that's what
that's where like the pure essence comes. Like it's not about the recognition, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's just about like the connection in some way and knowing that that's if it's a pure intention, it's going to trickle onward. Like it's going to keep paying forward, you know?
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that goes well for you. I hope maybe someone tracks it down or whatever and takes a writing workshop from you or something from this. That'd
we
be
can
cool.
only hope it reaches more people.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about reaching people.
A couple years we'll have a book maybe you can show the audience.
Nice.
It's here.
Yeah, do you want to invite anyone to a writing workshop?
Oh, yeah. Well, you'll have to be on the lookout for October. I don't have to pick a date yet, but you can follow me. Instagram's the easiest at Hava, HAVA.Rose, ROSE. My website is Havarose.com. I claimed it for the
I was about to say, how do you feel about the doctor there?
I did. You know, it's got the chiropractic, treatments there, so you gotta like throw it in. It's fine. I like it. I claimed
That's great.
it.
You came to a place where you could be with it.
I'm there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool. Well, thank you so much for being on. It was really cool hearing about your life
me.
and path. It's always fun to hear people. I don't know. I just get so much energy in life from hearing where people started and where they end up and all the journeys in between.
Yeah.
So that's really cool to hear how far you've come with everything.
Yeah.
So thank you for delving into that vulnerability and sharing it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you guys for listening to the Spiritable podcast here. Make sure to follow us at the Grand Human Project on all of our social media and look up Spiritable on anywhere you find podcasts. Download the audio podcast. Leave a like and comment on YouTube because we're trying to like respond to YouTube comments because that's fun for us to like connect to people. Connection.
It's all about it.
All about that connection. No, it is really, really fun for us though. So make sure you do that. I don't know if I need to plug anything else.
Or if you're not on the YouTube, send us an email at spiritablepodcast@gmail.com because not everybody, a lot of people listen to this, hopefully. I don't know who many. We'll find out.
Send us an email, give a comment, attend a writing workshop, keep on listening to podcasts, do your thing, and be a great person.
Yeah.
All right. And that is it. No, it's not it. I always forget. I lied. Okay, got to do the recap. If I